Call this meeting of the Mayor and Board of Alderpersons of the City of Bastrop to order. Let us stand at this time and ask Ms. Betty Oliver if she'll lead us in prayer, and Mr. Hamlin if he'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and flag.
Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for another opportunity to show you that we appreciate your love and your grace to us. We ask that you will help us to humble our hearts to surrender to your will as we make decisions for the citizens of this community. These blessings and others we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Replace the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Oliver, Mr. Hamlin.
Yes, sir.
This is a special call meeting of the Mayor and Board of Alderpersons of the City of Bastrop for a couple of specific reasons. But before we get started, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
District A.
Present.
District B.
Present.
District C.
Present.
District D.
Present.
District E.
Here.
Mayor Alford.
And a quorum is established. Just a couple of announcements. Last night we were able to attend celebration at Bastrop High School, and we made presentations to the team and the coaches. We made some certificates of congratulations. We gave a certificate to each coach and assistant coach, manager, trainer, and football team members, along with one of our city pins. Several of you were able to come, and I appreciate that. And it was well received and appreciated. Mr. Thoreau and I talked this morning on another issue, and he again expressed his appreciation for us coming. Let us remember Councilperson Gordon and his family during the illness of his father, and let us continue to be of support to him as well as any other member of our group. Seems like wintertime always brings a lot of illnesses and situations, so we all need each other's support during this time. We're caught up in the political season on the national level, so let's just be strong and be faithful and observe and be prepared to make decisions. A couple weeks ago, one of the services that we're supporting is a VITA income tax service. It's a tax service through the IRS that is being sponsored here at City Hall. We have some individuals who work and prepare income tax for moderate and low income folks to help them get all of their earned income for themselves. People use tax preparers, and that's a legitimate business. But so many of our residents and our co-workers, in an effort to get their refunds rapidly, go to the rapid refund places, and they're paying for these loans. And as I can appreciate it, the loans end up being a percentage maybe of what it is that they are receiving in return. Sometimes, in some cases, it's a percentage, in some cases, a fixed amount. And I was talking to some of the staffers who are handling that project across the hall, and they're telling me that people are paying as much as $500 to get their taxes prepared. And they don't realize that what they're doing is they're making a short-term loan. They're making a loan against the refund that they're going to get. The people who are working in our offices here have been trained by IRS. They file electronically, and in 7 to 14 days you get your refund to you. It comes to you. There is no pay for the folks who are involved. The Department of Social Services is subsidizing the workers who do that, but it's a beneficial initiative for us to be involved in. And I guess some of you say, well, why are you doing that? Well, I'm selfish. The more money that people have and spend in Bastrop, the more sales tax we get, the more we can render service to our constituents.
Right.
Again, the more money that people have in their pockets, the more that they can spend in our local stores, the more sales tax they pay, the more revenue that we get for us to deliver the services. It's not about salaries, but it's about delivering the services. And you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. $500 that goes to a loan company goes into their coffers. $500 that goes into a person's pocket, he or she's probably going to spend it, and 10% of that $500 is $50 between us, the state, and parish. You know,
Mayor, that is a free service, right?
absolutely free. No fees, no reductions, no kickback, and the individuals who are completing the taxes for you are sworn to secrecy. They have to sign all kind of documents about confidentiality. You sit there and you give them the information. They key it in on the computer at that time, and it's gone. You don't, you know. So they're open, I believe, from 11 to 7 every day, and on Saturdays, Mr. Hatfield, well, they stay here till about 1.
Yes, sir. From Saturday about 1.
But they stay until 1 on Saturday mornings. So it's convenient for folks to come to. And we use this announcement period as a way of trying to get this message across. Flyers or all over town. They've been sent to schools, to Head Starts, and placed in various places and sent to churches. If you know somebody, encourage them to take advantage of this service. Most W-2s, as I can appreciate it, are coming out this weekend, and we want to be busy in trying to help folks preserve their income.
Mayor Hawkins.
Low to
Mr. Hamlin, then Mr. Gordon.
low to moderate. What's moderate?
I think the maximum, well, I use that term, but in talking to the staffers, I believe that the max that they can make is something like $35,000, $36,000. And depending, they have to be head of household in order to get the earned income tax refund. So it's all tied to the earned, is that what it's called? Earned income credit. EIC, earned credit. Yeah. So it's tied to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gordon.
Mayor Hawkins, is there a telephone number that can be called to that office?
Somebody check across the house. Is it
283-3397.
283-3397? 283-3397. And if you call, if someone needs to call City Hall, don't call the police department and ask them now, but call City Hall and we'll be glad. Don't do like me. I call dispatch sometimes when I'm in the middle of something. But call 283-3397, and there are individuals who will provide assistance to them. So spread the word around in the groups that you associate with. Any other announcements that anybody else has? Okay. Item number 3 has to do with an item that we dealt with at the council meeting last week. We had introduced to us the proposal for land use. Basically, we call it zoning. And you had some concerns. I think you wanted a little bit more time to think about it. And I had asked you to let me know what your concerns were so we could answer them, and that we will be calling a meeting. I've had notes saying that you had some concerns, but I haven't had anything in specifically that we could answer. So we're open now. I guess my preliminary statement is this is something that has been going on, and the need has been going on. The need has been there for many, many years. You've been directing me to get into the zoning. This is our attempt to provide you with the information and provide you with a provider who can do the job for us. One question that I had was, did we need to do the whole thing? And my desire, my recommendation to you is that we fund the whole project, because I'm afraid if you decide to do it, my recommendation is that we go into it, do the whole thing, because if we have a tendency sometimes that we go into phases of it and something comes up, we'll delay it and we might not get back to it. And it will not work effectively and efficiently unless all of it is done together. I think Ms. Robinson asked at the last council meeting if Mark Vereen, if Tanya Martin, and Kay King would be involved. We definitely will utilize them. Kay has been in on some of the discussions that we've been involved in, as well as Mark Vereen, and naturally as code enforcement officer, Tanya will be definitely involved. So we'll be using our resources as well as yours, because this is not a mayor's program. This won't be the planning commission. This will be a City of Bastrop program, and all of us will need to be involved in the development of it. So we're open for discussion.
Mayor Hawkins,
Ms. Olive.
what are some tangible benefits that the citizens would be able to recognize over this 8-month period?
Well, during the 8-month period, what we will be doing is creating the program. A deliverable during the 8-month period won't be visible. We'll be planning. We will be putting in place the ordinances, putting in place the districts, putting in place the regulations that will be applicable to this process. You know, after the 8-month period, when everything is in place, then you will begin to have regulations on where things are built. We will have more teeth in enforcing our building restrictions and setbacks, and as far as planning is concerned, we will be able to do more visioning as to, we will know that somebody's not going to come on East Jefferson Street down the street from City Hall and open a bar on the corner across from Church's Chicken. We will be sure that nobody is going to go over in Space Estates and buy a piece of property and put a sawmill there. Or nobody will come on Providence Street and put a garage there, because different areas of the city of Bastrop will be regulated, labeled as it were, as to what kind of buildings, what kind of facilities, and what kind of activities can take place there. You know, the state specifies now that certain kinds of businesses can't locate within 300 feet of schools, churches, playgrounds, and that kind of thing. But we're bringing this, we're planning, we're determining the future of the city of Bastrop. We're making a master plan saying that you just did a massive renovation on your house. No low-income apartment, no multiple-use apartment can be built next to you. Your street would probably be all single-family dwellings. There would be areas where multiple family dwellings could be located. There will be areas where commercial facilities could be located. I remember several years ago, well, recently, it's happened more than that, and all of us can think of instances where someone had a house or a building and they decided that they were either going to put a church there, or they might decide they're going to put a bar there, or they're going to put auto mechanics. They're going to start doing auto mechanics in their yard. So this is what will be seen after we come up with the complete package. Now, and then if you do the paint your heart out during this 8-month period of time, that will be tangible and visible.
Mayor.
I'm going to make sure Ms. Olive is finished.
Okay,
Okay, Mr. Hamlin?
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The zoning part of it is to be completed in 8 months.
Yes, ma'am. That's their commitment to us.
Okay.
I have,
Mr. Lenore?
also, I have a question. That's good what you said, Mayor. My concerns also is that in situations where, you know, trailers have been put in between homes and on top of homes, and is there any provision in there that sort of weed them out over time? In other words, for example, what I mean by that, if a person's no longer occupying it and it's growing up in weeds for, you know, 30 days, 60 days, 120 days, will there be something in there where this can be, we can act on it and remove these things from our, or these SOIs from our communities?
As I appreciate it, Mr. Lawrence, I need you to come on up, please. As I appreciated it, it would be like most of our, well, the most readily thing that I can think of is like in clubs or bars or if there is a 6-month period of unoccupancy, then whatever, well, first, if something is in place right now, and Ms. King, you've been involved in this too, so you might need to call on you. If something is in place right now and it's in use as that thing, when we adopt the law or the policy, that can continue as long as it's just called grandfathering.
Right.
That will continue as long as it's continuous. But if it should stop for whatever segment of time, then that grandfathering provision will no longer be applicable, and then you follow the new regulation. Now, interesting point, and I need your help on this, Mr. Lawrence and Ms. King. If it's when we make the law and the place is vacant already, all grown up, not occupied as a resident, will the new policy apply to that?
This is in the case where you actually have a trailer that's already situated there.
Dilapidated, nobody's in it, grown all up.
That's something we're going to have to look at closely. It makes it a lot easier if you have zoning in place to be able to say yes as an answer to your question.
Okay. Without zoning?
Without zoning, it's there. And that's one of the things that I was going to say in answering some of the questions that have been raised here today, and also based on some of the calls that I've gotten from some of you at my office about regulating some of the various types of businesses that may be undesirable businesses. You really can't regulate them until you get zoning. And even when we talk about bars, I can remember when St. John Baptist Church had the issue about one of the stores on West Madison selling alcoholic beverages. Just like the mayor said, the only restriction you have is that 300-foot restriction in place right now, where basically if you're going to sell, you got to be at least 300 feet from a church or a park or whatever. But if you had zoning in place, you could have said, look, we're going to zone that entire area where nobody can sell alcohol, period. So that would have provided an added layer of protection that's over and beyond just what state law says about regulating those type activities. The other thing is, too, it works in the reverse. Let's say you had several restaurants that said, we're ready to come here, but we want to be sure that we're able to sell alcoholic beverages to our patrons who come in and purchase a meal. Well, and let's say that the city says, yes, absolutely. But all of a sudden, where they plan to build, someone builds a church 100 feet away. Well, all of a sudden, you've just disrupted the flow of commerce, because you had this restaurant that thought that they could build on a spot and be able to do what it is that they were going to do, but now they can't do it. So through the process of zoning, you're going to decide the areas where certain activities can occur and where certain activities cannot occur. And so to me, you really, a place that is the size of the city of Bastrop at this point really has to have it if you're talking about regulating the types of conduct that all of you have talked about. And in close, Mayor, if I could also say this, I'm going to tell you, I thought it would have been a lot more expensive to do what this company had talked about doing. I figured it would run $150,000. But to hear that, but to see what that quote was for the things that they were going to offer, to me that was incredible, because I know how much work is going to be involved. This is not going to be a weekend. It's not going to be a month. This is going to be a process. So, based upon what I've seen, I think that it's really something that the city needs to do.
Now, one thing in talking to staff, and I've had staff members to review this and take a look to give me their professional insight, and they refer to base maps, and base maps will serve as a foundation for doing what they need to do. That's something that's not a part of this that the city of Bastrop will have to provide. So that too will be discussed and negotiated as we go. Now, the details of what will be done are not in here. This is just the overall proposal. And those finite things, those minute details about where stuff is going to be and how you want to regulate it, that's going to be up to the Planning Commission.
That's right.
As during this 8-month period. This is not the document that's saying how stuff would be. This is telling you they're responding to the proposal and saying what they have the capabilities of doing and what all they would do in the process. But it doesn't go to say you'll have so many commercial areas and you'll have so many R1s and resident 1, R2s and multi-use. That's something that you'll decide.
Mayor, is that what you call base map? What, I don't know.
Base map is almost lot sizes, a map laid out, giving specific streets and just all kinds of stuff that, yeah.
That's already there.
Pardon?
That's already
Yeah, that's there. That's there already, yeah.
May I say one question?
Please, yes, sir.
Since you started it.
I'm always starting something.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on you. We had this thing about locating around churches, but you brought out a point. Now, can we also regulate what churches are going to locate?
Yes, absolutely.
That's important, too.
That is very important for that reason that I mentioned. Again,
I'm glad you mentioned
if you have a commercial area where you want restaurants to come, you will kill that commercial area if you allow churches to go there. I mean, that's just a fact. So absolutely, you get to regulate all those different type land uses.
Mayor.
In a lot of, excuse me, Ms. Hamlin, it was
that was all I just said.
in a lot of large cities where downtowns are deteriorating because the rental property was cheap, storefront churches, they call them storefront churches, would move in. And if there were going to be some redevelopment, that would stifle the redevelopment because then the church being there would prohibit particular kinds of benefits that might come. Ms. Robinson.
I wanted to ask when you said something about 6 months, is that a state law, or is that if it's vacated for at least 6 months, is that a state law, or is that in place now, or can we change that time?
I'd really want to look at that. I know that there are some state laws, like I think under the liquor licensing provisions of state law, there is like a 6-month period. But to say that same 6-month period applies to non-conforming uses with zoning, I'd have to look at that. But I think that's going to be pretty uniform, however, a 6-month period.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, I think Mr. Hamlin had a problem about the price when Monroe had paid $75,000, I think, for their planning. I understand that was just on the south side. They didn't have the whole city done.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
South of the Zero.
They have something called Southside Economic Development
Yes.
District.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Discussion?
Mayor Hawkins,
Mr.
I've got a concern. Item number 5, which is paint your heart out. It relates to assisting low-income, elderly. I'm not sure really who all's included in that group. My concern is being involved in private sector. Getting involved in private sector renovations and that type of thing. If we go in to start painting, then how far are we willing to go? I don't feel like the city should be involved in going in and establishing what a person should do or shouldn't do to their food, clothing, and shelter. I feel like this part, we could better utilize our sources there, maybe in putting that in another area of the project. That's my concern, my feelings on it.
All right. Okay.
One other question.
Okay, Mr. Lenore?
So I just was wondering, you don't want to, some things, some specifics you said be left up to the planning committee. I can understand that, but will the council have some input and interaction with the planning commission on some of these specifics that they are throwing up?
On
Will
the-
you be able to react with them?
I think that on the planning commission, yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the planning part of it.
Okay.
And I take it that y'all understand how all the phases unfold. You start off with a planning commission,
and this part of it, and then when you get it in place, there's a zoning commission
Right.
that's going to kick in, or perhaps should kick in after that, after you get the actual zoning regulations. But in the planning process, yes, I mean, I would take that those people answer to you.
If this board would like to, you can be the planning commission, but that would be redundant because any challenge that's made by a citizen or property owner that the zoning commission makes has to ultimately come back to the board of alderpersons for them to make the ultimate decision on.
That's right. I would recommend against it.
Yeah.
You'd be meeting up here constantly if you were on the council and on the commission.
For challenges, people want to rezone stuff. If you, when I'm traveling and I go to Baton Rouge and New Orleans or Washington, I like to watch the networks where the city government business has been taken care of, and they frequently have issues. People are coming in and they want to put a non-conforming business in an area. Let's say an area might be a shopping center, and the kind of business that they might want to do is not under that umbrella, so they have to come before the zoning commission and then eventually to the city council if it doesn't work the way that they want it to, and they appeal it to that body, and then it goes there.
Mayor?
Ms. Robinson?
I would like two things, right? On the paint your heart out, it was my understanding, and the note I made was that this would be a team of volunteers. The city wouldn't be putting any money into it. It would just help volunteers identify what needed to be done, and that the business people, if they wanted to, could help sponsor for like paint and that sort of thing. I thought that was one of the things that sold me on it, was the fact that, and the other thing was the feedback, which kind of blends in with that I got from people that watched the meeting that night. They were conducive to doing this because it would hold property values that are already established by not having somebody come in and just build anything in their neighborhood, but also if there was something that needed attention and they couldn't do it, that this would be a good way to improve their property and hold the property values. So that's my opinion, whatever it's worth.
Okay. And please don't think I'm trying to sway you. The $7,500 for the Paint Your Heart Out is the cost mainly for the coordination and basically some supplies, probably for maybe with the feeding part, because there are going to be some get-togethers afterwards. But this is a volunteer program. It can't work unless there are teams or volunteers or businesses or churches or whatever that come together to do it. But this is going to be your call, and so I'm not trying to sell anybody on either one of these issues. But I think my task was to present this to you, and Ms. Robinson, you said that people were responsive when they heard about it. Okay. Okay, we're still in discussion.
One other
Mr.
thing.
Gordon.
Mayor, you referred to two different committees, or the planning committee and zoning committee, and that's going to be in two different phases. The planning committees would be the one to establish it. The zoning would be after the establishment. Could the zoning committee, could the planning committee be made into the zoning committee, since
It could be the same people.
could be brought
They
together?
would, yes, they would exercise two totally different functions, but they could be the same people. They would be meeting separately, however, because and Mayor, if you don't mind me addressing
Please
the
do.
way I figure it is this: during the first 8 months to a year of this process, it's going to be all planning commission. And then the planning commission may never meet again until, let's say, you have an annexation. Because then the question will be, how are you going to use this property that you're about to annex? Or if you revisit the entire zoning package, the planning commission would come back in. If something like that doesn't happen, you won't have much planning commission activity at all, but you'll have plenty of zoning commission activity. I can assure you of that.
In fact, I don't know if they mentioned this during the meeting, sometimes, and we do this here, when we have issues that involve Bastrop, City of Bastrop Sales Tax District Number 1, we will have a meeting and we will call that body together. We will take care of whatever the business is, promulgating the results of the election or whatever it is. We will take care of that action. We will dismiss that, and then we will go into the Board of Alderpersons of City of Bastrop meeting. So Ms. Sharon said that sometimes the Planning Commission, as you said, and the Zoning Commission are the same thing. The Planning Commission will be called to order. They will do whatever they need to do, and they will dismiss and then go immediately into action as the Zoning Committee. I think where we are today is to decide if you want to pursue this activity. And in pursuing, all of the little intricacies will be worked out. You are going to be totally involved in this process. Your involvement is absolutely necessary. It cannot work. It cannot work unless the Board of Alderpersons are involved. Board is involved. It cannot work if citizens in your various districts are not involved. Because this is kind of like remodeling your house, doing a renovation. Everybody who lives there needs to have some input, and the final results needs to be based on what's good for the overall community. So that's where we are. I'm not trying to stifle discussion, but any other discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Holland.
Some of the questions that I've had in reference to the Paint Your Heart Out, and I can see the compassion behind doing that, but at the same time, I don't think it's just as easy as going in painting a house. Sometimes there are boards that need replacing, that's rotten. You can't just go in and throw a coat of paint on that. So I'm inclined to agree that maybe we can better utilize resources instead of using money from this, maybe develop some other type of effort to do something like that as far as going in and working on somebody's house.
Okay.
Mayor,
Ms. Robinson?
the only other thing that I'd like to say in regard to this is that when we started Keep Morehouse Beautiful, the negativity was there because everybody said it's a task that we'll never be able to take care of because it had gone on so long by not cleaning, except in sparse places and activity. But look where we are today, because a bunch of people got together and volunteered and worked hard. And the city has been a boon to that, and I don't think I need to tell you. And we'll never stop people from throwing garbage on the ground completely, but if we had some ordinances or whatever, and we have that already, but look where we are today, and we're working on our second certificate and Keep Morehouse Beautiful winning the contest again. And it's not impossible. At one point we thought it was, but it's not. And this is the way I feel about this. I think it's just a continuation of putting us where we should be, and it'll be a long struggle. But think about the enhancement of Bastrop, because it's so close in proximity to Monroe and Arkansas, that I think that one day we may never see it. I probably won't be around, but I think it's going to be a boon to this city to get to where we need to be, and we have to start somewhere. And we started with Keep Morehouse Beautiful, and I'd like to see us continue it with this.
Mayor,
Mr. Hamlin?
I feel like Ms. Robinson, and I do plan to be around. And, I wish we could get started on this as soon as possible, because I don't want it to come up at that late date and we fail to vote on it. So we need a motion to adopt
Yes, sir.
this?
Yes, sir, to accept the proposal or to allow me to enter into a contract with this group, and that would be the appropriate thing.
I would like to make the motion that we grant the mayor permission to enter into this contract with this group so that we can go ahead and get started.
Mr. Hamlin makes a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Robinson, second Mr. Hamlin's motion. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Ms. Olive?
the details now in working that out, such as my concern and Mr. Gordon's concern about the paint job, will you be flexible in altering some things? Because I think we all agree that we need the zoning and the planning.
Okay.
It was just other details.
Okay, it depends on Mr. Hamlin's motion. Now, Mr. Hamlin's motion was to accept the proposal, and I don't know if you accepted in its totality, Mr. Hamlin, or...
My motion would accept the total package
Okay.
because I don't think they're going to go in there
Okay.
and put paint on a regular board.
Okay.
I just believe somebody's going to pull it out there
Okay.
and place a new one there,
So-
a better one there.
So his motion is to accept it in its totality, and Ms. Robinson's second evidently was that. So
Yes.
that's what we're voting on at this time. And then if the, you know, if the majority don't feel that the totality should be accepted, then the vote should reflect that, and then we make adjustments there. Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Lawrence, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no.
Uh,
Call the roll, please, Ms. Goldman.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Olive,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
no.
Mr. Lenore,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
And we have
Three to one.
3-1.
3 more.
Okay, it passes.
4 to
I
1.
thought it was
4 to 1. How did I do that? I can't count. It's 4 to 1.
It's going
Okay.
along with you.
So,
Take that board out.
all right. Oh, it passes then. And Mr. Hamlin, as you requested, we'll start on this immediately. I'll give them a call tomorrow so that we can start the details. And you will be called together as we go into this with the assistance of Mr. Lawrence and other staff members to make sure that this will be beneficial to the citizens of the city of Bastrop. Okay. Item number 5, Ms. K. King, discussion on the purchase of the industrial property by Bastrop Tank Wash. The Bastrop Tank Wash, for those of you who might not be familiar with it under that name, is the old Gerald trucking business, the Gerald Tank Wash. Ms. King, thank you.
Yes, in 2006, after a lengthy vacancy on that building, because it is a building that washes chemical residues, nothing very hazardous, but mostly fuel and many chemicals that are used in the treatment of potable water. So there's really not anything extremely hazardous, but when you put the word chemical in front of a facility, sometimes it brings about bad connotations. So in the fall of 2006, these are the original people. Tina Brown approached us about putting the building up for bid, and we did take sealed bids on that building, at which time she bid to pay a monthly lease payment of $1,800, which began last January. And she's been paying her rent regular. The business is doing very well. Within that agreement, which was bid, there was an option to purchase the building. Now, once again, she's been in business for 1 year, and she would like to move forward with a purchase. We would not like for it to be that once she goes into this purchase agreement, that if she's not able to complete it, that it would extinguish her option. We would like for the option to continue, because this is her first attempt at financing the building. She's doing very well, and one of the benefits of this business has been that we are keeping trucking companies in Northeast Louisiana, because prior to the time that this was reopened, much of our truckers were going to South Arkansas and Shreveport to get these trucks cleaned.
Okay.
We're putting the building back into private ownership. That's the objective.
Okay, so she wants to exercise her option to buy the building at the appraised price. We have to sell it at the appraised
Yes,
value.
sir.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, sir. Just to add on to what Ms. King said,
Yeah.
I think the financial institution that she's working through has requested an agreement to purchase, which is a document that precedes the actual sale, and that's the reason why I'm standing here. If you take action, I was going to ask you that action include authorization to the mayor to execute an agreement to purchase and sell with Bastrop Tank Wash
LLC.
which will reflect the terms of an actual sale that may come up that's contingent on Bastrop Tank Wash getting its financing. And what we're requesting is something that banks request. In other words, they want to see that there's something in writing where she has affirmatively, that is the Bastrop Tank Wash has affirmatively stepped forward and said, we want to do this purchase, and where the city of Bastrop says, yes, we're interested in selling it to you. And you indicated to me that we have a fair market valuation.
Yes, we had a commercial appraisal done on the property by Huff Realty, Sherry Huff, who is a licensed general appraiser. We had in the past used Mr. Sibley, but since he's retired, it's necessary to go outside of the parish to get an appraiser that's a commercial license. It's my understanding. I've tried.
That's true.
And Ms. Huff appraised the building for $159,000. That included the depreciation that's taken place on the building through the years. And that is the fair market value as established by that appraisal.
Did we have anything about improvements?
We had some stipulations in there about improvements to the building because we didn't know the building had been vacant for some time, and we didn't know when we got in there and got everything working if things were going to work. But those repairs have been so insignificant for the tank wash that she doesn't even wish to pursue that.
So we're talking $159,000.
Ms. King, that's the building and how much acreage?
It's it's a little over 5 acres. Probably shouldn't have that, but it's just slightly over 5 acres.
Okay. I'll make a motion to give the mayor authority to enter in this agreement.
I second.
It's moved by Mr. Gordon, second by Mr. Hamlin, that permission be granted. Is there any other discussion? Let me just be sure you understand that something that Ms. King said. If they are not able to complete the financial arrangements at this time, they want to be sure that this does not negate their option to buy in the future.
Yes, that the time
Okay.
limit would run as with the
Right.
original
Right.
agreement.
So everybody feel comfortable with that?
Right.
Okay. All right. If you're in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed should say no, and the ayes have it. Thank you both
Thank
very
you.
much.
And one question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Did you say we didn't have Mr. Sybil retired?
John Sibley?
Ms. John Sibley, he
Yeah.
retired,
Sibley retired. And there's no one else in Bastrop?
that does commercial appraisals,
Commercial, not
not
resident.
residential.
Oh.
There's a difference, and when you have a commercial building, you have to have a appraisal by a qualified appraiser that's licensed to do that type of appraisal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just mention before citizens comment, you probably noticed on West Madison and West Jefferson's a series of barrels and markers and all that stuff out there. They should have started yesterday, but the weather held them up, and I don't think they did very much today. But J-Bar Construction Company, which we are contracted with as part of our sewer renovation, is going to re-establish the sewer line starting down around Marker Street, which is down by the old Exxon station, and coming almost into downtown. That clay pipeline on the Jefferson Street side is basically one of the almost original sewer lines is clay pipe. It's collapsed in many cases. It's diverted and offset and all kinds of things. So they're going to be doing pipe bursting there. And the big one that we think is going to be 3 weeks, I hope that they'll be able to do it before 3 weeks is up. Traffic will be down to one lane coming in and one lane going out in parts of Madison. What they're going to do is they're going to get a man at a particular manhole. They're going to go dig around that manhole, dig down, open a space, and run a machine in there that's like a big ram, and they're going to burst the existing pipe. Just ram it through there, bursting the existing clay pipe, making an opening, and then they're going to pull in PVC or another kind of material pipe through there, and then they're going to reestablish the connections. Now, the business people who are along there will be notified and marked as to where they're going to have to come and do point repairs, where the service connections are. Service connections are the connections that go from, like, my business to the line out there. They're going to paint a mark on the sidewalk showing them where the connection will be, and they're going to let them know when they're going to be working so that it won't interfere with their flow of business. They'll be prepared for this interruption. And I've tasked them that once they go to a spot and start working in front of a business, say Doug Lawrence's business on Jefferson, that they go in and they fix that repair at that time before they leave and not leave an open hole there, you know, for a day or weekend or whatever like that to interfere with the progress there. So that's what's being done as part of our sewer renovation program. Let's see, is there anything else on that? That's gonna have a large impact on our inflow and infiltration. This work too needs to be done, especially as it approaches the downtown square, because we have a sidewalk grant program that we're very, very close to completing, and we need to be sure that we fix the sewer like we did on the streets, fix the sewer under the sidewalks before we put the sidewalk in and go back and tear them out again. So we're trying to be sure, I learned lessons the hard way, of being sure that we're sequencing things properly and to get it done properly. I'm told by Mr. Lenore we have a citizen who'd like to make a comment. Mr. Lenore?
Okay, I have someone from my district, Ms. Melba Andrews. She might want to come forward.
Would you come forward, please, and speak to this?
I want to recognize her anyway, yes.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Andrews. Would you come forward and give your name and your address, please?
Good afternoon.
Good
afternoon.
My name is Melba Andrews, and I live at 610 Jackson Street here in Bastrop.
Thank you, ma'am.
I stand before you this afternoon to speak to you about some concerns that I have at my home. Back in December of 2004, Mr. Mike Collins from State Farm came to my house to assess some rain damage that was done to my house. When he got through looking at my roof, I also asked him to look at the outside of my house where some boards had come loose from around the bottom. And when he got up under the house and looked, he saw that the seal had been broken up under my house. There's a drainage ditch right beside my house where the water, when it rains, it floods. And after that, I think around January the 5th of 2005, I contacted Mr. Arthur Jones. And he came out and looked at the problem. But at that time, he said it was just a board that was laying under the house. And I informed him that the man from State Farm had also told me that it was the seal that had been broken under my house. So after that time, I spoke with Mr. Hamlin, I spoke with Mr. Lenore, and I also talked to Ms. Betty Alford. And during that time, Mr. Lenore came out to my home and looked at the inside of my home and saw where my floors have dropped down, my house has shifted, it's also sinking, my floors are swaying, and that's because the water stays up under my house all the time. The water from the ditch never goes away. It stays wet all the time. That's because where I live, there's we go down, there's a sink in the road, where I live. And so much damage has been done, I don't know what could possibly be done to fix it. There's also a manhole at the back of my step where I live, where I found out that I think several of the houses, there's sewage run up under my house, and no one can tell me how the manhole got there. Miss Lenore has been to my house and looked inside of it to know the damage that has been done because of the drainage problem. And I just stand before you today to see what could be done about it.
Mr. Lenore?
Yes, I've been over to look. I don't know what can be done, but I was wondering if the city could take a look at it, see if there's anything on the part of the city that, that we could do or should be done. I don't know, and I need, our experts to go over there and look at it and see what can be done, if there's anything can be done.
Is this a drainage? Did you say the drainage between your house or in front of
It's
you?
a drainage ditch between my house and my neighbor's house.
Oh, okay.
And when it rains, because we live in the slope, the water from the top hill of Jackson, everything drains right at my house. And my neighbor's house and my house catches all the water. And the water up under my house stays wet all the time. And I had somebody to get under there and look. The floors are rot, they'll start to rot. They're soft when you walk. They're sagging, so. And even on the outside of the house, you can walk around on the outside of the house and see where the house is starting to sway because it is shifted.
Okay, help me with this now. This drainage ditch is not in the public right of way, and it sounds like a natural drain. And your house is, the back of your house is the alleyway, and then the high school campus back there, I believe?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a hill.
And the water also runs off that school too,
Yeah.
because that's the first out. All the water coming from off that campus gonna hit that bottom, hit that drainage ditch, and that's the floor, and it's gonna come down behind those houses on Jackson, and the first exit is gonna be at her house.
Between it.
Right.
Is there a cross pipe on Jackson Street right there?
It's either right in front of the house or right down.
Yeah.
It's close to it.
Okay.
It'll come down right through it.
And it probably
Right at my house is where the water drains. Like my driveway, the water, everything comes there and goes up under my driveway.
Okay. So you're the low point in that.
Right,
in
right
that
at the
area.
low point.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You put in covenants, I believe, recently, and you put a little concrete in there that helped to alleviate some, but I have been by there when her car was, water halfway to wheels in her driveway, so,
Ms. Jackson, you said there was a manhole at your,
There's a manhole at my back step, yes ma'am.
is that to a sewer line somewhere?
Yeah.
Probably. When whoever developed those houses over there several years ago probably put in that private sewer line. I'm not sure because we don't usually put. Is it in the right of way or is it in her yard?
I think so. Sewer easement. Going up under the house up there.
Okay.
Yep.
It's going under the house.
Okay. All right. We'll need to take a look at that and
Yeah.
just see. Does the manhole overflow?
I have never seen it overflow, but it's high up off the ground, sort of right at even with my back, with my step. But the reason why I know is that other people's sewage run under there. A couple of my neighbors had problems with their sewer, and when they figured out where it ended up, that's where it was. And I know it has caused problem with the piping under my house because I've had to replace pipes, several times.
Okay. How long have you lived there?
Since '91.
Since '91. And when did problems start?
I noticed the problem back in 2004,
Okay.
and I don't know, what took place before then.
Okay. All right. Are you home during the day?
No,
What time do you get home?
about 6 o'clock I get
Okay.
home.
All right. Tell your neighbors if they see somebody around your house that it's the city is doing some inspection and looking.
Okay,
Please.
thank you,
Okay. And thank you very much for coming.
thank you.
And we'll notify you. Would you, Mr. McKee, would you get her telephone number and address? If you give your telephone number so we can get back in touch with you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Ms. Andrews. Is there any other citizen who'd like to make a statement to this mayor and board of alderpersons?
Yes, sir. Mayor Hawkins.
Ms. Olive?
I want to commend the city workers, that employees that worked on the certificates. I was with Mayor Hawkins along with Ms. Robinson and Mr. Hamlin last night. The certificates looked great. I only wish we could have given them to the football players individually, but time didn't permit. But the city workers did an excellent job on the certificates.
Yes, sir. Certainly
very
did.
much.
Mayor Hawkins?
Yes, Ms. Robinson?
I'm trying not to put a damper on what we've already decided, but I have to tell you and how I feel. If we can afford to do the $75,000 for this study, I would like for us to seriously look as soon as we could to try to find our police officers money for a raise. Their morale is very low because of several things that have happened lately, and I know that Mr. Walker is going to do a wonderful job as chief, but I know that we're sad to lose Alan, but that's not the only reason why their morale is low, and they do a very good job, shorthanded as they are, and I think we seriously